In today's video, I'm going to show you how to open up, disconnect, and remove your NuTone IM2003 Radio Intercom Master Station. You'll need just a few tools to do this. You'll need a Phillips screwdriver. You'll need a small, short, standard screwdriver, some masking tape, and a marker or a pen. So let's do a quick overview of the 2003 Master Station. 2003s were introduced in 1984, and they are somewhat of a throwback to the earliest systems that NuTone made in the 50s and 60s. So what you have here, this is an IM2003T. The T is for traditional, which gives you the wood grain faceplate. You have a radio on and off switch. Volume, this speaker, that's for the speaker that's built into the Master Station. You have door speaker, which is either on or off. Door speakers on a 2003 system are 3-wire speakers, and they actually have a push-to-talk button on the speaker on the entry of your house. That's one of the things that's kind of a throwback to the early days of NuTone intercom systems. It requires the visitor on the front porch to push the button to reply when you answer the door from inside the house. If you leave the door speaker in the on position, you also have radio that plays through the front door speaker. Another thing that's a throwback to the early days of NuTone intercom speakers. If you leave the door speaker turned off, that really means is that you're unable to talk to the front door from any of the remote stations in your house. You could only answer the door from the inside stations. You have intercom control buttons. You have both talk and listen on the Master Station. The way this would operate is you would push talk and call to someone in the house, and then push listen to hear the reply. If someone's using the system from room to room in the house, it would work more like walkie-talkies. One person would push their talk button, and since the other remote speakers don't have listen buttons, the person responding would have to push their talk button to respond. You have volume all speakers. This is basically the music level that's set throughout the house. There is no intercom volume adjustment on the front of the unit. It's actually on the back on the main circuit board. You have built-in AM and FM. You have an old school analog radio tuning dial, so you move the thumb wheel and the orange pointer moves vertically up and down the scale to tune in your radio stations. And there is a single auxiliary input, which is a jack on the back of the set, which allows you to connect an external music source. The first thing to do to open up your IM2003 is to remove the two mounting screws that hold the faceplate to the wall. Use your Phillips screwdriver to loosen the screws. Like all NuTone systems made in this era, there are hinges, and it will hinge down from the wall. Mounted in the wall behind the Master Station is the metal wall housing. Usually there'll be a support strap that gives it some additional support when you open it up. For removal, it's necessary to unhook the end of the support strap. There's a little hook on the end of it, and it's usually clipped onto the wall housing somewhere. And we'll tilt this down. So before we start disconnecting things, let's do a brief overview of what's on the back of the Master Station. On the back of the Master Station, we'll start up here in the upper right-hand corner. This is the tuner board, and the tuner board is mounted on this metal bracket. And as an assembly, it includes the orange pointer that moves vertically that you see through the front of the faceplate. Here's the thumb wheel, and it actually has a dial cord or a string, which is what moves the orange pointer vertically. Down here you have a small circuit board, which is your AM/FM auxiliary switchboard, and mounted down on the side of it is a RCA jack, which is where you would plug in your external music source. Down on the bottom you have the main board, which includes the power supply, amplifier, and intercom control circuits. Of course, you have a speaker mounted on the back of the faceplate. In the upper left-hand corner, you have a chime module. Chime modules are optional on 2003 systems, so yours may or may not have one of these. And in the center of the faceplate is the terminal board. Unlike other NuTone systems from this era, which would have a terminal board mounted in the back of the wall housing, this one is incorporated onto the back of the faceplate. So this will be the first thing that we're going to disconnect, and this requires a little bit of special attention, so when you get your set back from repair, you'll be able to hook it up easily and it won't be confusing. Unlike most NuTone intercom systems, which have a more traditional terminal board which will be mounted in the back of the wall housing, those type of terminal boards would have rows and rows and rows and rows of screws, as many as possibly 30 screws. And in those types of installations, every single individual wire is connected underneath its own individual screw. A 2003 system is somewhat different in that it has a very simple terminal board, and there are actually just 4 screw connections. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the way this works is similar color wires are all attached under their own individual screw for that color of wire. For instance, this screw is for blue/copper wires from all speakers. That includes the front door speaker. This screw is for red or silver wires from all inside speakers. This large knurled connector here, which is actually a thumb screw that you turn with your fingers, this is for gray or center wires from all speakers, including the door speaker. And the last screw, which is down here, this is the red or silver wire, which is exclusively from the front door speaker, not from any of the other stations. This is how the door speaker on-off switch works on the front of the master station. You're turning this connection on and off with that switch. That's why the door speaker red or silver wire has to be connected individually to its own terminal. So where this can get confusing for people is to remember which bunch of wires go under what screw, and to not get the wires all jumbled up when you disconnect them. So the easiest way to do that is to take a small piece of masking tape, and we'll start here with the blue/copper wires. We're going to wrap the masking tape around all 4 wires. Now, your installation may have 2 wires or it may have 8 wires. Regardless of how many wires there are, put the tape around all of them so you're creating a bundle of wires. And then on the tape, I'm going to write blue. And that will remind me that those wires go under that particular screw. Then you can loosen the screw and take the wires out from underneath. And we'll continue on. We'll do the red/silver wires, again putting a piece of masking tape around the wires, and on it I'm going to write red, and we'll loosen that screw and take those wires out. We'll take a third piece of tape and we'll wrap it around the gray/center wires. And I'm going to write gray on that. And this one you don't need a screwdriver for. You just loosen the knurled nut with your fingers and pull the wires out from the slot. And the last one that leaves is the door red/silver wire. And even though you're likely to only have a single wire under that screw, it's still helpful to put a piece of tape on it. And I'm going to write door on it because it's the door speaker wire essentially. And then we'll loosen that screw and remove that. Now we've disconnected all of the wiring from all of the remote speakers from the master station, and we'll just tuck those back in the wall housing to get them out of the way. While we're working in this part of the master station, let's disconnect the antenna. So here we're looking at a close-up view of the tuner board, and connected at the top is the antenna cable. The antenna cable on NuTone intercom systems is always or usually this flat translucent twin lead antenna cable, and on the end you have this block connector, and the block connector simply unplugs from the pins on the terminal board. Here are the antenna connection pins, and when you go to reinstall this, you just take the block connector, line it up on the pins, and reinsert it. So again, we'll just pull it off, unplug it, and we'll tuck the antenna into the wall housing to get it out of the way. Now we've moved across the back of the master station, and we're going to disconnect the chime module. The chime module is located in the upper left-hand corner of the master station, and the chime module is this rectangular tan circuit board, and it's held to the back of the faceplate with two mounting screws. And in this installation, there's a single doorbell button on the front porch, so we have two wires connected to the chime module. NuTone chime modules always have a row of screws down one side of the board. The large screw is the common terminal, and it will always be at one end of the row of screws. And then the other three smaller screws are labeled as side, rear, and front. Front door gives you the long chime module ringtones. Rear gives you a single note, and side gives you two notes. If you have rear and side doors on your house, you may have wires under these screws also. It's important to mark these as to where they go. In this particular case, I'm just going to simply put a piece of masking tape on the cable itself, and I'm going to write on it chime. Now, when you disconnect the wires from the actual chime module, we'll loosen the screw for the wire on the common terminal, and we'll loosen the screw for the front terminal, and we'll remove the wires. When you go to reinstall this, it doesn't make any difference which way these wires get connected. Originally, the white wire was on the common terminal, and the gray wire was on the front terminal. When I go to reinstall it, if I flip it around and do gray on common and white on front, it's going to work the same way. The important thing is you always have to have one wire on common for each wire underneath these screws. So one on common, one on front. If you have a rear door, there'll be one on rear and another one on common, which gives you two. If your house has both front, rear, and side, you'll have one wire on front, one wire on rear, one wire on side, and a total of 3 wires under common. So if you have multiple wires for front, rear, and side, you may want to label those individual wires as to where they went so you can put them back in the right spots. Let's look at one other connection that has to do with chime modules. Sometimes we have customers that contact us that have faulty or failed chime modules, and they need to remove them from the set so they can send it to us for repair. So let's look at how the chime module in an IM2003 is installed. It's held in place with 2 screws. There's one here and one here. And there's also this flat gray ribbon wire. And the ribbon wire is plugged into a plug on the chime module. And if you follow the length of the gray cable to the right, you'll see it's also plugged in here into the terminal board. It has the same type of plug connection. So to remove a chime module from an IM2003, it's best to unplug the cable from the terminal board like I just did, because if you're going to send me the chime module, I want you to send the cable with it. So once you've unplugged the cable, all you have to do is remove the 2 screws that hold the chime module to the base plate. Make sure you keep the screws because you're going to need them again. A handy tip is you can take the screws and they stick to the back of the magnet on the speaker, the handy place to put your screws, and the chime module will lift out of the set. That's all there is to it. It would be a good idea to not leave the speakers on the back of the speaker, or the screws on the back of the speaker magnet. It's best to put them back into the spots in the faceplate, so when you get your rebuilt chime module back from us, you'll have screws to mount it. Now let's get back to disconnecting the rest of the master station. The next to the last thing to disconnect will be the transformer. The transformer is usually mounted in the lower left-hand corner of the wall housing, and you'll see coming from the main circuit board in the IM2003, there'll be this red and white pair of bonded wires, and if you follow those from the corner of the circuit board down into the wall housing, you'll find where they're connected to the transformer. This is where your short standard screwdriver comes into play. All you have to do is loosen the screws on the top of the transformer and remove the wires, and then tuck them into the master station. The last thing to disconnect is the ground wire. So coming off the metal bracket down on the tuner assembly just above the thumb wheel that you turned to change the radio stations, you'll find a single heavy black wire, and if you follow it up into the wall housing, it'll be attached underneath a screw somewhere in the wall housing. Where it's attached exactly depends entirely on what the installer decided to do the day he put your system in. But really all you have to do is follow the wire, find the end of it, and loosen whichever screw it's under, and slide the wire out from under the screw. The wire has a spade connector on the end of it, so it will be easy to remember what it's for, or you can put a piece of masking tape on it and write ground, which is not a bad idea. So let's do that real quick. So we'll put the tape around it and we'll write ground. That's short for ground. And that way you'll remember where it goes. Now all you have to do is tilt the master up, slide it forward on its hinges and to the side slightly, and lift it off the mounting screws, and your IM2003 has been disconnected and removed, and you're ready to box it up and send it to me. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like it on our YouTube channel. If you think it would be helpful to other people with NuTone IM2003s, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribing to our channel will raise our search results on YouTube, which means it makes it easier for other people to find our videos. Also, if you have comments about the videos or suggestions for other videos, please leave it in the YouTube comments and I will respond to them. I'm going to continue to make videos for our YouTube channel about NuTone intercom systems. If you have ideas or suggestions about videos you'd like to see or videos that would be helpful to you, please leave them in the comments and we'll try to make them for you. Thanks a lot, and see you on the next video.